Hello, I'm Kat Roemmich. Welcome to my talk presenting my paper, Emotion AI at Work, Implications for Workplace Surveillance, Emotional Labor, and Emotional Privacy, co-written with my advisors at the University of Michigan, Florian, Schaub, and Nazanin, Andalibi. Emotion AI refers to technologies that aim to read and/or interact with human emotion. First, the AI performs the automatic emotion recognition task by analyzing data from a variety of input sources, including image and video records like camera footage of one's facial expressions, eye movements, and body gait, text communication, such as data from emails or social media posts, speech records from voice recordings of one's vocal patterns and tone, and/or biophysiological signals recorded by EEG, heart rate, and temperature sensors, like from smartwatches. Some or all of which can be used to classify a human emotion according to various theoretical models, the most common being discrete models like Ekman's basic emotions theory, and less commonly, according to their position in more fundamental affective dimensions. In addition, some AIs include additional architectural layers, like perception, planning, and reasoning, to synthesize emotion recognition inferences in order for the machine to respond in an emotionally responsive way, as illustrated here. In the workplace, emotion inferences are often used as part of larger workforce analytics and surveillance programs that collect, aggregate, and process data from a variety of enterprise data sources, like digital communications, IT security infrastructure, wearables, and more, to monitor workers and derive insights about them. As illustrated by Ball's analysis of employee surveillance techniques over a decade ago, workplace adoption of emotion AI is part of a longer history of employers' enduring appetite for surveillance into the interior lives of its workers. Organizational reasons for adopting emotion AI to gain insight into workers' emotion and other interior states and traits include to aid in performance assessments with metrics like employee sentiment and levels of employee engagement, to enhance corporate wellness programs by monitoring workers' mood and well-being and implementing programs that offer automated well-being support, to mitigate security and safety risks, such as identifying disgruntled employees, and to improve customer satisfaction and loyalty, such as with emotion AI-enabled quote-unquote human augmentation technologies that coach employees interacting with customers in real time. Yet, organizational adoption of emotion AI has invited public controversy surrounding the ethical and privacy implications of using emotion AI to surveil worker emotions. Concerns include violating worker privacy, potential misuse and abuse of people-sensitive emotional information, both of which can render workers vulnerable to machine interferences into their private emotional lives and leave them vulnerable to emotional manipulation, as well as widen power asymmetries between worker and employer in ways that can perpetuate and reify social inequalities. We lack empirical knowledge about emotion AI's impacts to workers from workers' perspectives. So we conducted an interview study to investigate workers' experiences with and perceptions of emotion AI to address the following research questions. What are workers' general perceptions of emotion AI in the workplace? How do workers experience or anticipate behavioral adaptations in response to emotion AI? And what consequences do workers experience or anticipate associated with emotion AI? Specifically, we interviewed 15 workers based in the United States, 6 with and 9 without cognizant experience being subject to emotion AI in their workplace. For a diverse sample, we used online channels to recruit participants, including from occupation-related subreddits like Our Supply Chain, Prolific, an online city recruitment platform, and Facebook ads. Our sample included participation from Black, Latina, Asian, and white women and men, the majority of whom worked in public-facing care labor type roles from customer service, teaching, and healthcare industries. For our first research question regarding workers' perceptions of emotion AI in general, we found that workers experience and perceive emotion AI as a deep privacy violation that intrudes their private and sensitive emotional information. Specifically, workers shared that their emotional information was irrelevant to employer concerns and therefore inappropriate information to collect and share in the workplace, a violation of contextual integrity. In addition, workers shared that their emotional information is highly sensitive, on par with other sensitive information types like mental health information, and should be protected as such. Describing the automatic, continuous, and intrusive nature of emotion AI-enabled workplace surveillance as profoundly unsettling, workers described how emotion inferences limit their ability to manage boundaries around whether and to what extent their emotional information is shared with others in the workplace. Overall, our findings indicate that emotion AI may not meet workers' privacy expectations to manage privacy over their emotions. For our second question regarding the ways in which workers experience or anticipate behavioral adaptations in response to emotion AI, we found that emotion AI functions as a surveillance tool to enforce workers' compliance with employers' emotional labor expectations, a term that involves inducing and/or suppressing feelings to convey a particular emotion as required by one's job. Yet, we also found that emotional labor functions as a privacy behavior to preserve privacy over workers' felt emotions, such as displaying a smile to convey warmth and empathy toward a customer, while internally feeling upset or hurt during the interaction. Together, these findings indicate that workers perceive and experience emotion AI to penetrate workers' ability to use emotional labor to protect their interior emotions, and overall indicate that workers subject to emotion AI in the workplace can be negatively impacted by both emotion AI's privacy intrusions and enforcement of emotional labor. As a consequence of emotion AI's privacy violations, we found that emotion AI exposes workers to a wide array of harms, answering our third research question regarding what consequences workers experience or anticipate with emotion AI. Specifically, we follow Citron and Solov's recent privacy harms taxonomy to identify psychological, autonomy, physical, economic, reputational, relationship, and discrimination harms, all associated with emotion AI in the workplace. In addition, we identify harms in emotion AI's interaction with emotional labor enforcement to which workers subject to emotion AI may be exposed, but are only partially recognized by the current privacy harms taxonomy, including amplifying emotional labor's negative effects on workers, racialized and gender disparate effects of emotional labor enforcement, and chilling effects to workers' own felt emotions. Altogether, these findings illustrate the breadth and depth of emotion AI's privacy intrusions and harms. In our discussion, we discussed the growing consensus for the need to regulate emotion AI. As legal scholars have noted, identifying emotion AI's impacts is necessary before meaningful and enforceable regulation can be enacted, an end to which our work contributes. As our findings show, emotion AI erodes people's privacy over their emotions and as a consequence exposes them to a myriad of harms. Yet, we still lack legal protections and regulatory safeguards that enforce, recognize, or even define an individual right to privacy over emotions. Accordingly, we introduced the term emotional privacy as a special privacy interest and discuss ways in which design and policy can protect and preserve emotional privacy. First, regulation and policy could recognize a human right to emotional privacy and implement regulatory safeguards to protect it. Within the workplace specifically, expanded worker rights could include a right to emotional privacy, crucially not only recognizing emotional privacy, but also allowing workers access to redress when they have experienced harms as a result of emotional privacy violations. In addition, there are design opportunities to protect and preserve emotional privacy, including techniques like differential privacy and decentralized federated learning to limit identifiable emotion inferences. In addition, enterprise risk management practices could be adapted to recognize the heightened risks associated with emotion AI and minimize its risks to emotional privacy. Yet, we also discuss how some emotional privacy harms remain and can even be exacerbated by governance and technical solutions to address concerns surrounding emotion AI, and therefore advocate for refusal to adopt emotion AI in the workplace in the first place. Overall, our findings indicate that emotion AI deeply violates people's privacy over their sensitive emotional information and call for the ethical and legal recognition of a human right to emotional privacy and to remain free from emotional manipulation within and beyond the workplace. You can read our paper in full at the link here. Thank you for your time today.